For several years, a man was having an affair with an Italian woman. One night, she confided in him that she was pregnant. Not wanting to ruin his reputation or his marriage, he said he would pay her a large sum of money if she would go to Italy to secretly have the child. If she stayed in Italy to raise the child, he would also provide child support until the child turned 18. She agreed, but asked how he would know when the baby was born. To keep it discreet, he told her to simply mail him a postcard and write "spaghetti" on the back. He would then arrange for the child support payments to begin. One day, about 9 months later, he came home to his confused wife. "Honey," she said, "you received a very strange postcard today." "Oh, just give it to me and I'll explain it later," he said. The wife obeyed and watched as her husband read the card, turned white, and fainted. On the card was written, "Spaghetti, spaghetti, 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 spaghetti. 3 with meatballs, 2 without. Send extra sauce." An Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman arrived at a railway station in a state of inebriation just as the train was about to leave. A helpful porter managed to get the Englishman and the Scotsman aboard as the train pulled out. Then he turned to the Irishman and said, "I'm sorry, sir, that I couldn't get you aboard the train." "My friends will be sorry too," said the Irishman. "They just came to see me off." Jennifer's wedding day was fast approaching. Nothing could dampen her excitement, not even her parents' nasty divorce. Her mother had found the perfect dress to wear and would be the best-dressed mother of the bride ever. A week later, Jennifer was horrified to learn that her father's new young wife had bought the exact same dress as her mother. Jennifer asked her father's new young wife to exchange it, but she refused. "Absolutely not. I look like $1,000,000 in this dress, and I'm wearing it," she replied. Jennifer told her mother, who graciously said, "Never mind, sweetheart, I'll get another dress. After all, it's your special day." A few days later, they went shopping and did find another gorgeous dress for her mother. When they stopped for lunch, Jennifer asked her mother, "Aren't you going to return the other dress? You really don't have another occasion where you could wear it." Her mother just smiled and replied, "Of course I do, dear. I'm wearing it to the rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding." In Mississippi, a traveling salesman is cruising down a deserted road when he sees a hand-painted sign. "The Holy Sisters of St. Margaret, Cat House, 15 miles. As he hasn't had sex in a while, he ignores it and puts it down to his imagination playing tricks on him. That is, until he sees another sign, "Sisters of St. Margaret, House of Prostitution, 5 miles. Then one more, "Sisters of St. Margaret, House of Horizontal Refreshment, the hottest cat house in town, 1 mile next right." His loins are stirred and he gives in to temptation. He turns in and finds a stone convent with a small handwritten sign that reads, "Sisters of St. Margaret." He plucks up courage and rings the bell. A nun opens the door and smiles kindly. "What may we do for you, my son?" Somewhat awkward, he mutters, "I saw the signs and was interested in doing some business." The nun smiled knowingly. "I see. Very well," she says. "Please, if you could follow me." She takes him through the imposing hallways until they stop at a large red door. "Knock on it," she tells him. He does so, and after about 10 seconds, another nun opens it. She is holding out a tin plate. She says with a knowing smile, "Place $200 on the plate, then go through the large wooden door at the end of the hall." Now, getting excited, he eagerly drops the dollars on the plate and rushes down the hall and goes through the door. Click. He hears the door lock behind him. He looks around and sees he is standing back in the parking lot, staring at a sign that reads, "Go in peace." "You, sir, have just been by the Sisters of St. Margaret. May God be with you, sinner. Levine, having gone to his secretary's apartment for some hot overtime, was astonished to wake up and find that it was 3 in the morning. "My God," he shouted, "my wife is going to kill me." Unsure of how he would explain it, he ran out to the nearest payphone and called his wife excitedly. "Honey, thank God," he began. "Don't pay the ransom. I escaped." Mark had been running a small cafe with his business partner Leo for almost 20 years. Then one day, Leo decided he wanted the cafe all to himself and pushed Mark out with lawyers and paperwork. Mark was given 2 days to clear out his things. He didn't argue, he didn't shout, he just smiled and said, "Sure." Over those 2 days, Mark packed his stuff calmly. On the last evening, he made himself a fancy farewell dinner in the cafe kitchen. Seafood pasta, wine, dessert, the whole drama. Before leaving for good, Mark had a tiny moment of inspiration. He went around the cafe and quietly slid leftover seafood scraps into places nobody ever checks. Behind wall panels, inside hollow table legs, and even inside the decorative menu boards. Then he locked up and walked away. A week later, Leo reopened the cafe. Within days, customers started complaining. Something smelled off, really off. Leo deep cleaned, blamed the staff, replaced furniture, even hired a smell expert. Yes, that's the thing. Nothing worked. After a month, business was dead. Reviews said things like, "Great coffee, smells like something died and never forgave anyone." Desperate, Leo called Mark and said, "Look, you always loved this cafe. I'll sell it back to you for almost nothing." Mark agreed instantly. Only condition, leave everything behind, furniture, decor, even those fancy menu boards. Leo did. When Mark reopened the cafe, it smelled perfect. A customer asked, "Wow, how'd you fix the smell so fast?" Mark smiled and said, "I removed the rotten shit." A man's wife sends him to the store to buy cigarettes, but when he gets there, it's closed. On the way home, he stops at a bar to use the vending machine and ends up chatting with a beautiful woman. One thing leads to another, and before he knows it, he's at her place. Hours later, he looks at the clock. 3 a.m. Panicking, he says, "Oh no, my wife is going to kill me. Do you have any talcum powder?" She hands him some, and he quickly rubs it all over his hands before heading home. As soon as he walks through the door, his wife is waiting, arms crossed, furious. "Where have you been?" He stammers, "Well, I went to the store, but it was closed, so I stopped at a bar, met this beautiful woman, had a few drinks, and, things got out of hand." She glares at him. "Let me see your hands." She looks at the white powder all over them and shouts, "You liar! You've been bowling again, haven't you?" A man and a woman, both married but strangers to each other, were stuck in a tiny sleeping cabin on a transcontinental train. At first, they felt super awkward. He took the top bunk and she took the bottom. By 1 a.m., neither could sleep, but neither wanted to be the first to admit it. Finally, the man broke the silence. "I'm sorry to bother you, but could you grab me an extra blanket from the closet? It's freezing up here." The woman thought for a second, then grinned and said, "I've got a better idea. For tonight, let's pretend we're married." He perked up, curious. "That sounds great." She smiled sweetly and said, "Good, get your own damn blanket." There was a long pause. The man sighed, let out a fart, and resigned himself to the fact that sometimes it's just easier to sleep on the cold side of the bed. When the employees of a restaurant attended a fire safety seminar, they watched a fire official demonstrate the proper way to operate an extinguisher. "Pull the pin like a hand grenade," he explained, "then depress the trigger to release the foam." Later, an employee was selected to extinguish a controlled fire in the parking lot. In her nervousness, she forgot to pull the pin. The instructor hinted, "Like a hand grenade, remember?" In a burst of confidence, she pulled the pin and hurled the extinguisher at the blaze.
Late one night, a luxury hotel caught fire right in the middle of the city. Alarms screamed, guests panicked, and fire trucks rushed in from everywhere. The hotel owner ran up to the fire chief and shouted, "My office has all my cash, contracts, and hard drives. I'll pay $100,000 to whoever gets them out." Firefighters fought hard, but the fire was brutal. Then another siren wailed as a tiny fire truck rolled in, an old volunteer crew made up entirely of retired firefighters, all well past 65. People laughed. "Those guys? They'll break a hip," someone muttered. But to everyone's shock, the old-timers floored it, smashed straight through the entrance, and attacked the fire like it owed them money. Within minutes, the flames were out. The owner was stunned. He shook their hands and said, "For a stunt like that, I'm raising the reward to $250,000. A reporter rushed over and asked the gray-haired captain, "So, sir, what will you do with all that money?" The old man wiped soot off his face and said, "First thing? What? We're fixing the damn steering wheel. I tried to turn left." A guy walks into a bar with his cat, but the bartender immediately says, "Sorry, no animals allowed in here." To the bartender's surprise, the cat speaks up, "Hey, I'm tired of this discrimination. Just give me a drink, okay?" The bartender rolls his eyes and says, "Oh, great, not another guy with the old talking cat ventriloquist act. Both of you, out." The man quickly protests, No, this isn't a trick. Tell you what, I'll leave and walk around the block. You can talk to Whiskers yourself." The man walks out, and the bartender watches him turn the corner. The cat flicks its tail and says, "Now about that drink." The bartender is stunned, but quickly recovers. "Wow, okay, drinks are on the house for you. Hey, could you do me a favor? My wife works next door at the cafe, and she'd get such a kick out of this. Here's $10, go in, order a coffee, and keep the change." "Sure thing," says the cat, taking the money and strolling out the door. 10 minutes pass, and the cat hasn't returned. The owner comes back and asks, "Where's Whiskers?" Concerned, both of them go looking for the cat. As they approach the cafe, they spot Whiskers in the alley, lounging on a pile of cash and flirting with a fancy Persian cat. The owner shouts, "Whiskers, what are you doing? You've never done this before." Whiskers yawns and says, "Hey, I've never had money before." A wise old gentleman retired and purchased a modest home near a junior high school. He spent the first few weeks of his retirement in peace and contentment. Then a new school year began. The very next afternoon, 3 young boys full of youthful after-school enthusiasm came down his street, beating merrily on every trash can they encountered. The crashing percussion continued day after day until finally the wise old man decided it was time to take some action. The next afternoon, he walked out to meet the young percussionists as they banged their way down the street. Stopping them, he said, "You kids are a lot of fun. I like to see you express your exuberance like that. I used to do the same thing when I was your age. Will you do me a favor? I'll give you each $1 if you'll promise to come around every day and do your thing." The kids were elated and continued to do a bang-up job on the trash cans. A few days later, the wily retiree approached them again as they drummed their way down the street. "Look," he said, "I haven't received my Social Security check yet, so I'm not going to be able to give you more than 25 cents. Will that be okay?" "A lousy quarter?" the drum leader exclaimed. "If you think we're going to waste our time beating these cans around for a quarter, you're nuts. No way, mister. We quit." And the old man enjoyed peace and serenity for the rest of his days. "Honey, let's play a game." "Okay, what is the game all about?" "If I mention a country, you will run to the left side of the room and touch the wall. And if I mention a bird, you will run to the right side of the room and touch the wall. If you run in the wrong direction, you will give me all your salary for the month." "Okay, and if you fail, I will have your salary too, right? Yes, darling. Okay. Stood up and was ready to run to any direction. Are you ready? Yes, ready. Turkey. It has been 4 hours now. The husband is still standing at the spot, wondering if she meant the country or the bird. A woman comes home beaming and tells her husband, "Guess what? Those headaches I've had for years? Gone!" Her husband, surprised, asks, "No more headaches? What happened?" She grins. "Margie sent me to a hypnotist. He told me to stand in front of a mirror and repeat 3 times, 'I do not have a headache. I do not have a headache. I do not have a headache.' And poof, they vanished." Her husband nods. "That's amazing." Then she adds, "You know, you haven't exactly been a wild stallion in the bedroom lately. Maybe the hypnotist can help with that too?" Intrigued, he agrees and books an appointment. That evening, he bursts through the door, rips off his clothes, sweeps his wife into his arms, and carries her to the bedroom. "Don't move, I'll be right back," he says, rushing into the bathroom. Moments later, he returns, jumps into bed, and gives his wife the most mind-blowing night of her life. Breathless, she gasps, "Wow, that was incredible!" Her husband winks, "Don't move, I'll be right back." Off to the bathroom he goes again. Round 2, even better. She's dizzy, amazed. Again, he says, "Don't move, I'll be right back." This time, curiosity gets the best of her. She tiptoes after him, peeks into the bathroom, and there he is, staring at the mirror, chanting, "She's not my wife. She's not my wife. She's not my wife." A quirky woman named Betty walked into a local bank carrying a huge bag of cash. She approached the receptionist and said, "I'd like to meet the president of the bank to deposit this money." The receptionist was a bit taken aback and tried to explain that it wasn't necessary to see the president for a regular deposit. But Betty was persistent, and after a few moments, the receptionist reluctantly agreed to take her inside. A little while later, the receptionist returned and said, "You're in luck today. He'll see you now." The bank president greeted Betty, saying, "How can I help you, ma'am?" Betty, with a gleam in her eye, said, "I want to open a new account and deposit this money." "Of course. How much are we depositing?" he asked. Betty smiled and replied, $180,000, please. And with that, she began unloading stacks of cash onto his desk. The bank president was floored. "How did you come by this much cash? We're not a laundering service." "Oh, don't worry," Betty said, waving her hand. "It's all perfectly legal. I just make bets." "Bets?" asked the president, now even more curious. Betty nodded and said, "For example, I bet you that your right hand will taste like eggs, not your left hand, just your right. If I win, you owe me $25,000. If I lose, I'll give you $10,000. The president, still stunned, thought it was a weird but easy bet to win. "I'll take that bet," he said almost immediately. "Good," Betty replied. "I'll be back at 9 a.m. tomorrow with my lawyer. Don't back out now." That night, the bank president couldn't stop thinking about the bizarre bet. He didn't even like eggs. He spent the night nervously licking and sniffing his hands, trying to figure out how this could even be possible. The next morning, exactly at 9 a.m., Betty showed up with her lawyer. She wasted no time and said, "Can I check your hands now?" The president, trying to act calm, nodded. "Sure." Betty carefully sniffed his right hand, then, without warning, licked it. At that moment, the lawyer started banging his head against the wall. Confused, the president asked, "What's going on with him?" Betty grinned and said, "Oh, he had a bet with me for $100,000. He thought I was crazy when I said I'd be licking the hands of the Bank of America president at 9 a.m. today." Alan retired in his early 50s and started a second career. However, even though he loved his new job, he just couldn't seem to get to work on time. Every day he was 5, 10, or 15 minutes late. But he was a good worker and really sharp, so his boss was in a quandary about how to deal with it. Finally, one day, his boss called him into the office for a talk. "Alan, I must tell you, I truly like your work ethic. You do a bang-up job, but being late for work nearly every day is quite annoying to me as well as your fellow workers." Alan replied, "Yes, sir, I know. I'm sorry, but I am working on it." "That's what I like to hear," his boss said. "However, the fact that you consistently come to work late does puzzle me, because I understand that you retired from the United States Air Force, and they have some pretty rigid rules about tardiness. Isn't that correct?" "Yes, I did retire from the Air Force, and I'm mighty proud of it," said Alan. "Well, what did they say when you came in late?" asked his boss. "They said, 'Good morning, General.'" A woman was unhappy with the way her laundry was done at the local Chinese laundry, so she wrote a note and put it in the bag with the next collection of soiled clothes. "Use more soap on panties." She got the clean laundry back and was still dissatisfied with the results, so the following week she enclosed another note. "Use more soap on panties." The Chinese laundryman became very annoyed, and when her clean laundry was delivered, it contained a note from him. "I use plenty of soap on panties. Use more paper on There was a hysterical call at the fire department, and it went like this. "Help me, please help me. There is a cat meowing and yowling with frequency and urgency. It is going to hurt me. Can you please help me and send the fire squad right away?" "Take it easy. Cats don't hurt us. Just relax and wait until it leaves." "You don't understand. It is going to bite me. It is going to be fatal." "Cats aren't like snakes or spiders that are poisonous. By the way, who is calling?" "I'm Josephine's parrot, you idiot. Help me, please. Help!"